jeez, man. Like, as most of you know, I'm a very big Cavaliers fan. I mean, I've even got my hat right here to show you guys how much I love this team. But, in saying that, I do feel a little bad, I'm not gonna lie, for the New York Knicks. I know I'm not supposed to feel bad, but after seeing Stephen A. Smith's reaction to the New York Knicks not being able to get Donovan Mitchell, I think it is very evident that something needs to change with this NBA franchise.
You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? Every single time, man, something goes wrong. I wanted Donovan Mitchell in New York. I shut my mouth. I didn't say a word. Because I didn't want to blow it. I didn't want to get in the way. You got about 7 or 8 first-round picks. You got R.J. Barrett. You got Julius Randle. You got Toppin. You got Emmanuel Quickly. And you still couldn't get Donovan Mitchell. You still couldn't get him. So once again, we're going to go into another season. And the New York Knicks are devoid of a star. They're somewhere other than in a New York Knicks uniform. See, this is what I'm trying to say, man. They make me sick. Nothing ever gets done in New York with the Knicks. Nothing.
Something is going so terribly wrong with them that it desperately needs to change. And Knicks fans agree. They know this. Knicks fans want a change. Knicks fans have been spending the last 2 to 3 years hyping up and talking about how Leon Rose is such a great general manager, trying to get everyone on board just because Leon Rose ended up taking them or helping them get to the playoffs. Just for Leon Rose to kind of look Knicks fans in the eyes and say, look, I know you think I'm good, but I'm actually very average, and I'm going to show you how average I am this offseason. First of all, there were a lot of things that Knicks fans wanted to get done in this offseason. And for the first time nearly ever, most of them were really realistic. But instead, what has ended up happening is a very conclusive loser out of the Utah Jazz and Cleveland Cavaliers trade for Donovan Mitchell has been confirmed. Do you know who lost that trade? Was it the Cavs? No. Was it the Utah Jazz? No. So who could it be? Oh yeah, it's the New York Knicks. But you may be asking, well, how could a team who wasn't even in the trade lose the trade? Well, perfect answer is the New York Knicks had a trade lined up, but just didn't want to pull the trigger. There is a lot of rumors going around right now about multiple different trades that the Utah Jazz were actually willing to settle to that the New York Knicks just didn't want to do. Again, first of all, there was a big rumor going around that the Utah Jazz were actually really interested in R.J. Barrett at one stage, but wanted just a little bit more than R.J. Barrett and the unprotected 2 first-round picks, which is fair enough. Like, I like R.J. Barrett. I've always thought he could be a solid player, but I think it's very evident that R.J. Barrett has a long way to go, and he's not going to entice a star to come to your team, at least not this year, probably not next season. I'm not so sure how long it's going to take, but the reality is he's not going to entice a star to come to your team, and I think most Knicks fans know that, and that's why they were like, oh, look, R.J. Barrett, we really like him, but we'll let him go, right? So what did the Utah Jazz apparently counteroffer? They wanted a pick swap or two and Miles McBride. Yeah, not a whole lot. Not a whole lot more at all. And what did the Knicks do? They declined it. Why? I have legitimately no idea. Your guess is as good as mine. I don't know why the Knicks declined it. I mean, it's not like that was going to be an overpay. If you compare a trade of R.J. Barrett, 2 unprotected first-round picks, 1 pick swap, and Miles McBride for Donovan Mitchell compared to, like, Rudy Gobert's trade that ended up being, like, 4 unprotected first-round picks, multiple pick swaps, Patrick Beverley, Jared Vanderbilt. The trade the Knicks are doing is literally so calm compared to the other trade, right? If anything, I still think the Knicks would have won that trade. Knicks have a bunch of first-round picks from other teams that they gathered up in this offseason. They could have done a pick swap from there, and they could have given up one of their own picks in like 5 years or whatever, and they could have given up one of the unprotected picks they have from the other teams that they got their picks, right? Really not that big of an issue, considering Donovan Mitchell is a 3-time All-Star who averages 25 points per game, who is going to help draw in another guy. But the Knicks decided not to do it for some reason. Instead, they let the Cleveland Cavaliers build a really good team. Like, I know I'm a little biased because I'm a Cavs fan or whatever, but I think most people are starting to realize, though, how, like, good this Cavs team is. Like, on paper, it is nuts right now. Point guard, Darius Garland, All-Star. Point guard. All-Star shooting guard, Donovan Mitchell. You got Isaac Okoro at small forward, who has a lot to carry on with, but I still think could be a really good player. They're going to have future All-Star Evan Mobley at power forward, and then All-Star center Jared Allen. You got a potential 6 man of the year in Kevin Love and Ricky Rubio just coming off your bench, as well as Karis LeVert coming off your bench. Oh, man. The Cavs team's pretty stacked. What I'm trying to say is it's pretty goddamn stacked. But the Knicks, they had a lot going on this offseason. First of all, there was rumors that they were going to try and get Kyrie. Fair enough, they didn't do that. If I was them, I wouldn't have wanted to do that anyway. Like, I just wouldn't have, right? And then you look at the reality of they didn't do that. There's a couple other players that could have been available. Maybe a trade for Dame. Probably wouldn't have happened. Portland really like him. He seems to like Portland. So what do you go out and do? You bring Jalen Brunson in. You overpay, like, $400 million too much to get him. Fair enough. I wasn't going to criticize the move because I thought this was going to be a potential move to somewhat take a step forward to show that they're willing to contend and they're willing to build a lot of assets, and I think bring in an all-star player and then make the playoffs. And once they had that all-star player and made the playoffs, they would go for the other all-star player and then contend, right? But they didn't. They brought in Jalen Brunson, who, again, he is overpaid, and then just decided not to bring in Donovan Mitchell. Instead, they decided to keep players like Evan Fournier, who looks like they were trying to trade for so long and just didn't want to move him. I don't know, it's a little bit of a weird situation. Keeping RJ Barrett is not a bad thing for them at all, but then they could have still tried to flip players like Evan Fournier, etc., and at least try and get that Donovan Mitchell deal done. But still, for some reason, the Knicks were very content on it only being RJ Barrett. And apparently the Jazz were willing to listen to other situations, and the Knicks just didn't want to go that route. So, does that mean they're keeping players like Evan Fournier, who they probably should be trading? I really don't know. I don't know what the best situation is for this Knicks team. You've still got Julius Randle and his somewhat hideous contract there, and realistically, you are the same team you were last season. You've just added Jalen Brunson. How much better have the Knicks got? Not a whole lot. Look, you're adding another 17 points per game potentially into the team and maybe 6 assists, which is great numbers, but Brunson's not going to fit with Tom Thibodeau's defensive style. We've been knowing that by now. That's like, Tibbs needs to adjust. I don't know if he will. This could be his last season in New York. And this could be another season where they just flat out miss the playoffs. Like, think about it. There's going to be 8 teams in front of the Knicks for them to miss the playoffs, yeah? And I can literally, like, name them all straight away, and I'm sure most of you can, that will beat them out to the playoffs. You're talking about the play-in? Well, teams like Detroit and that have improved so much in this offseason that they could legitimately win some more games and make a big splash and contend for that play-in as well. There's only really 2 teams that aren't going to be contending this season in the East, and that's Indiana and Orlando. There's going to be so many teams contending for that play-in and the playoffs, right? But the Knicks really just didn't take the steps forward that they probably should have this offseason. They had so many tradable assets, like 800 first-round picks, a bunch of role players to trade like Evan Fournier, etc. And, you know, RJ Barrett, who knows what's going to be happening to him. He could still get traded. I don't know. If I was them, I'd just keep him at this point. He's still supposed to be your young future all-star. But I don't know. How does this team go? Do they keep Fournier and Barrett starting together? Does Randall still start? Robinson still starts? It's literally the exact same team. You've just added Jalen Brunson in. How much better has it got? I'm not sure. I think it will still be a play-in team. I would hope at least, because I really do like Jalen Brunson and RJ Barrett as players. I still like Julius Randle as well. Like, don't think I'm hating. I like all of these players. I'm just not convinced on this Knicks team so far, and I genuinely believe they were the big losers out of this Donovan Mitchell trade. I thought they could have brought in Donovan Mitchell, had him play with, Jalen Brunson, had Fournier at the 3 maybe, Randall at the 4. Look, it's probably going to be the worst defensive team nearly in the game, but it would have been a building block for them maybe to go into next offseason and, of course, bring in an all-star caliber small forward and bring in maybe a defensive power forward to eventually replace Randall, which is looking like they want to do anyway. I'm not exactly too sure how this is going to go. The Knicks did lose this trade for me, even though they weren't in it. They just couldn't let Donovan Mitchell slip. He even wanted to be in New York. Like, how many stars have wanted to be in New York in the last couple years? Like, legit none. And they just couldn't trade for him. They let him go to a team which is probably a top 5 team in the East now. Like, a lot of people can say, oh, we'll name you 5 teams better than the Cavs in the East, but legit, a lot of those teams are still in like limbo. You don't know how the Bulls are going to be this season. You still don't know how the Hawks are going to go. I mean, the Bucks had a bunch of injury issues this season. The Heat didn't really improve at all this offseason. I got no idea how it's going to go. I still think a lot of these teams are better than the Cavs, but I definitely think the Cavs should probably be a top 5 team in the East this offseason. At least I hope. But yeah, I don't know what the Knicks are going to be doing. Definitely let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. Do you guys think the Knicks had a definite rough off-season? Do you guys think they were the losers out of this trade? Definitely let me know your thoughts and opinions on this down below. But as I was saying, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment. And I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.